You ever think you just care way too much about what other people think? I recognize that I may sound like an absolute geezer when I say this, but I think one of the great poisons of the world today is the fact that we're all constantly thinking about other people and about comparisons and about what everybody else thinks about us. So here's the thing. It's a standing up video. It's that kind of video. Let's talk about Women's History Month for a second. I had a nice formulated video all ready to go about the life of Georgia O'Keeffe, and then I realized today, the day before the video is supposed to come out, that I didn't talk about anything that was extremely important today in her work. And so I'm making this video off the cuff, unscripted. There's nothing here. And you know why? It's a really good question, actually. Because this subject is super important to me. And that is the subtle art of not giving a crap what anyone thinks about you. And this sounds like a great way to be an absolute jerk face on the surface. But what it's really about is being able to let go and do things that make you happy while still being polite and kind to other people as you do them. So what the crap does this have to do with Women's History Month? What the heck does this have to do with Georgia O'Keeffe? What the heck does any of this have to do with anything? Well, I'll tell you, being someone who struggles daily with anxiety, I really, really freaking love Georgia O'Keeffe, because this lady doesn't give a flying fig about what anyone thought about her. I realize that she's dead now, but I'm speaking of her in the present as if she's here, because, you know, when you live in a ghost ranch in New Mexico, maybe you gain that power yourself. Oh, by the way, she lived in a ghost ranch in New Mexico for a while. Absolute legend. But let's cut to the chase here. If you have no idea who Georgia O'Keeffe is, she was an extremely influential American artist, and she was influential all the way from the 1920s up through like the 1980s. She was an absolute legend. She was a goddess. And she was the queen of paintings of cow skulls and very close-up paintings of flowers. And you may be thinking, wow, that's kind of dumb. That's not, like, great and important to the art world. But here's the thing. You're wrong. Or rather, let me try and convince you. Because here's what's really cool about Georgia O'Keeffe's art, is she would take things that were small and insignificant. She would take these paintings of flowers and she would blow them up huge. And the reason she would do that is because she wanted to force people to look at things from her perspective. She wanted them to be aware of the details in the world around them. Now, what the heck does this have to do with comparison? What the heck does this have to do with not being so concerned what everyone else thinks about you? Well, she had these big, beautiful flower paintings and people saw them, and in part because of her partner who exhibited his work right next to hers, and his work happened to be a bunch of nude photographs of her. People saw this work and they said, ah, that work is all about female sexuality, and it's all about this Freudian response, and it's about, you know, I can't say that on YouTube, I'm gonna get demonetized. The Virginia peach. You get the point. They saw all of these paintings and they immediately assigned a value to them, and that value was a Freudian response to female sexuality. And what you might find interesting in looking at these paintings is that she did not mean any of that literally at all. This was never her intention, and in fact, when people would say things about her art like this, it did not resonate with her, let's say that. She didn't like it. But what I really love is what she had to say on the matter. And we can get into the commentary of, you know, maybe some inherent sexism of some of these critics who looked at her art and assigned it these values, but that doesn't really matter. What really matters is what she said in response. And what she said was, well, these critics were talking about themselves, not me. She really pulled the I'm rubber, you're glue thing on him. Frankly, her entire life, somehow, she figured out how to not give a rat's cute little patootie about anything that anybody said about her art. But here's the thing. I don't want you to think that this was because she had some sort of self-inflated ego or something like that. In fact, she frequently struggled with emotional breakdowns. She had a lot of anxiety. She had a lot of performance anxiety. She didn't like anyone seeing her work before it was done. She didn't like being around people, honestly, much at all. And I can't say that I don't at least somewhat relate on that level. I love the concept of being with people, but sometimes being with people, I get a little nervous. But what was really cool is that she didn't ever factor that into anything that she really did. There's this amazing quote from her, and she said, "I've been absolutely terrified every moment of my life, and I've never let it keep me from doing a single thing that I wanted to do." And holy crap, what an amazing phrase. There's this phrase that's plain and simple called "do it scared." I'm an anxious little guy, okay? For a lot of my YouTube shorts when I was starting out with the platform, and honestly still, I will record them in my car because I don't want to hear anybody, I don't want to be perceived. Georgia O'Keeffe was much the same way, but she figured out how to channel that anxiety into a positive thing in her work, because instead of letting it keep her from doing things, she let it fuel a sense of creativity and meditation on her work and the world around her. She was fascinated with the New Mexican desert because there was so much emptiness. There was so much space to just sit and think. She talks a lot about making things known to people with these big flower paintings, with these paintings of skulls that she collected. And by the way, she said they were quite lively, so that's super fun. We love a bone queen. Ooh, that sounded... But she was constantly making art, trying to make people see things, trying to convey what was inside her head. And she said, whether you succeed or not is irrelevant. Making your unknown known is the important thing. So something that I love so much about O'Keeffe is that she saw what she wanted to share and she shared it. And she didn't stop sharing it, despite all of these different negative things and feedback and events that happened in her life. She quit painting 3 times. She tried not to do it. But what was really incredible is that she always came back. I think a big part of why she was able to keep going is that she had this incredible ability to stop caring about what other people think. We have this plague in our society that's come with a lot of short-form content, which is that we are constantly measuring ourselves and we are constantly looking at other people and trying to compare how we are to how they are. And the problem with that is that with a lot of AI and with a lot of editing softwares and different things, they don't even look like that. They aren't even living that kind of life. It's all fake. It's just a simulacrum of a reality that doesn't exist. I guess that's kind of the definition of simulacrum. So what I want you to remember this Women's History Month, whether you are a woman or perhaps if you know a woman, this is what I want you to remember. Is this quote by her. "I get out my work and I have a show for myself before I have it publicly. I make up my own mind about it, how good or bad or indifferent it is. After that, the critics can write what they please. I have already settled it for myself, so flattery and criticism go down the same drain, and I am quite free." And that's what I really love about Georgia. She loved what she did, and she knew she loved it, and so she didn't really listen to anybody else. And so I hope if you're having a moment of self-doubt today, if you are having a moment of, I don't feel like I'm good enough in my field or in my home life, I don't know how I'm ever going to measure up to being the kind of person that I want to be, I hope that you can realize that in reality, for the vast majority of people, we all feel like that. But what you need to remember is to never let it stop you doing anything. What is that inner thing in your mind that you want to get out there? Hope you find it, and I hope I'll see you next time. Until then, bye-bye. Also, if you want to join my Patreon and allow me the ability to continue to make my rent, you can do that. And if you don't have the money to support me on Patreon, me neither. That's okay. I hope that you have an incredible day today. And I hope that you look at some flowers up real close. And also get your mind out of the gutter. If you need to. Maybe put your mind into the gutter. I don't know you. Oh, and also there's a new video on my Patreon if you want to check it out.